Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I'm here with the June 2023 colour combo. This colour combo is generated within a Facebook group called the Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artists group, which is run by these two lovely ladies, Patricia and Mariah, PM of Artist Studios. They're based in Texas. It's a fabulous Facebook group. I'll try and put the link to it in the description box below. Pop over. You'll need to answer 2 questions to get in. Believe me, they are really, really easy. They're just there to make sure you're not a spammer or you're not some internet problems. So anyway, make sure you're human is what I'm trying to get to. So PM Artist Studio do lives on YouTube 3 times a week. That's Central Texas time. Okay. Just go over. I try to be in as many of those lives as I can. So if you are in there and you see me, just say hi. Say, hi, Ceri, I popped over from your channel, something, and I can say hi back to you. Any questions for me or for them, you can ask them throughout that live. Really supportive group, really supportive team of people that turn up every live, and it's absolutely fabulous. So without ado, let's get on with the colour combo for this month. Okay, the colours this month cause me a slight bit of angst because I don't have one of them, but the colours are Ultramarine, which is this lovely blue called Ultramarine. There was a colour then called Cheddar, which cheddar is sort of a really orangey yellow, so I kind of am going to mix these 2 colours together to make it, because I'm not going to go out and buy a paint called Cheddar just for this one, although it's not far off this colour anyway. I think if I add a little bit of yellow to this, I will get there if I should need to make it up. Then those are the 2 that are the combo, and then what you're allowed to add to that is you're allowed to add white, you're allowed to add black, and you're allowed to add a metallic. I think I'm going to use copper. I've only got 2 here because there's very little left in this tube, and I know I'll probably need the other one. So that's what you're allowed to do. Now, you don't have to use any of that. You could just stick with this. I always say to the people doing this combo, if there's a complementary colour or something that you really feel your piece needs, then by all means add it. But as long as the featured colours at the end of your creative process are Ultramarine and Cheddar, that's all I really mind about. And to be honest, this is just fun. It's not a competition. It's just, let's have some fun. So what am I doing today? I thought where I normally create a background, I'm going to sort of do a bit of a twist on that, and I'm going to create some arty postcards because my postcard supply is running a little low. To me, that's running a little low. I mean, I just need more of them. So I thought this is a great opportunity to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm working on a piece of 12 by 12 card. This is 250 GSM. For my British people, I couldn't tell you what poundage that is in any other country, so just know it's a reasonably firm cardstock. I'd say it's probably about the same weight as you were getting a 12 by 12 good quality craft pad. Now, what am I going to be doing? Now, I have paints, obviously you've just seen them, but I thought I'm going to use gel prints. So because I've already got gel prints here, so I thought I'll pull some out and do a collage with them. So I know that these were originally ultramarine and they've got white with them. I had some, this was Payne's Grey, but I like the colour of it because it's sort of a bluey black. I did have some black, so I pulled the black out as well. As far as the cheddar goes, this is pretty much the colour of the cheddar. And I found some other pieces that had stuff on them, which would be good for collage. And then I found this piece of gold, which I'm not sure whether I'm using this, because if I use this, gold would be the metallic and not my copper, not sure. And then I found this piece, which I really like that was really interesting. And I found this that's got ultramarine in the corner, and then it's got turquoise on it. So I've got a mixture, to be honest with you. I'm not really sure. We're just playing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a collage using those tissues. I'm using Liquitex Basics acrylic matte medium gel, and while we're talking, I'm just going to squeeze it into this pot because this tube is running pretty low. And oh, excuse the noise. And I know I'm going to have to open a new tube of it, and I don't want to have to scrape this out on screen, whereas what I will do at the end of the process is I will actually snip the top off the tube and then scrape it out, because I'm not going to waste anything. But for the time being, it makes sense just to squeeze it into a pot like this. There you go. And then I'll put the lid on it when I'm working. And I'm using a couple of palm brushes. I call these palm brushes. I don't know what else they're called. There is another size, but I think I inadvertently didn't wash this one properly because it's a bit solid. I think I have to give that a soak. I keep trying to find new ones of these, but for some reason, every craft show I go to doesn't seem to have them anymore. Anyway, let's get on with this. So I think I want to start with something relatively basic, like I want to put in the blue. Now what I'm using here, this is a product called Carnival Tissue, which means it's water resistant tissue paper. It likes to tear in one direction. It does not like to tear in another direction, okay? So just be aware that things like that will happen. Now I'm going to start with the blue, and then I'm going to put some cheddar colour into it, and then we're going to collage onto the background. Now you'll note I've got my very, very messy mat here. This is the one I do all my arty sort of messy type projects on, so I don't mind, and I'm going to use a combination of the different brushes. So yeah, Carnival tissue paper is a water resistant tissue paper. I believe it's manufactured here in the UK because that's where I buy it. I do know that it's considered reasonably expensive, and it isn't cheap, I will freely admit that. However, I find that if I buy a large enough bundle of it, because the sheets are so large, I can then cut it up into maybe 4 smaller pieces, and literally I'll have like 500 or 600 pieces of it. It's there you go. So that's my first bit on. Am I worried about wrinkles? No, actually I'm not. I could go in and smooth them down my finger and work them all out, but it doesn't bother me at this point. I'm not. I just want to get stuff down on the page. And then it could be once we've got it all made up, maybe there'll be texture paste involved. Maybe there'll be stenciling involved over the top. I'm not 100% certain because, as with everything, I create as the muse takes me, should we say. So I'll just get a couple of these pieces down here. Oops, and don't move it like I just moved it. Up you come. Now, let's grab, just got a store card and just smooth this out a bit. As I said, I'm not worried about any sort of wrinkling or creasing on it, because at the end of the day, this is mixed media as far as I'm concerned. So therefore, mixed media means it can look anything it wants to look, really. Let's tear this one. That'll tear that way. Right, let's be a little more careful how I tear this piece, because as we've already discussed, it doesn't tear well. Let's move that over to one side. So when I'm collaging, and this goes for a lot of different things I do, I will start with the larger pieces first and then work towards the smaller pieces in the foreground. Just the way I work. I think many others work that way as well. It just works for the way my brain is wired, to be honest. Right, where's that yellow piece? So I've got, am I worried that there's white on here? No. Let's do a couple of strips of this. Now, once this is done, you may note that I am overlapping the edges at some places. That's because I know I can just trim them off afterwards. I'm also not worried that pieces are overlapping, because this Carnival tissue paper is semi-transparent. It's not as transparent as gift wrap is. Some of the orange may turn green, because I'll be able to see the other colour underneath it. Maybe if there's a really pale colour on top, then the stronger colour underneath will actually come through and show through and create another colour altogether. So, yes, I do like to collage. Especially when you're using like your own background papers. I love that. It's just, that's interesting. What's going to happen, by the way, is I'm going to have to do this video. Well, it'll be 2 parts for me, but only 1 part for you, because I'm going to have to make this, let it completely dry overnight before I come in and try and cut it the next day, because cutting up wet collage is not a fun thing to do, and half the time if something's wet it's not going to cut, it's just going to tear or rip, and that's not what I want. Right, you will note I'm working in threes. That's not intentional, that just happens to be where my headspace is at the moment. I do like working in threes, but it's not necessary. I just like to get some sort of balance on the page. I'll come in with this now because I'm doing well for the ripping today. I want to start adding a bit of visual texture into this while I'm still space covering, which is what I'm going to call this. If my page buckles slightly, which it will when it's wet, I also don't mind that because it will flatten out when it's dry. And if it doesn't flatten out, I'll just place something heavy on top of it until it does. It will learn who's boss, I can tell you. So just getting some of this in. That doesn't look like it's stuck very well. Maybe I didn't put enough glue underneath there. There you go. I do intend this to be quite a quick process, and that actually is on purpose because I find the quicker I work, the less I have to ruminate over what's going where. And I can procrastinate a lot when I'm creating stuff, and it slows me down and it stifles my creativity. So I like to work quickly. I feel I want this last piece in there somewhere, maybe across there. Now, when we come to cut this into postcards, I'm going to cut them into the size of postcards I prefer, which is pretty much a standard size here in the UK. But remember, I'm cutting into postcards. You could cut it into tags, journal cards. You could make a journal cover out of this. You could make ATC backgrounds. You can do whatever you please with whatever you create. Right, so we've got that on there. I think I want to add a little bit of drama now. Let's see if I've torn. Oh, doing well for tearing today. Normally I don't get to tear very well. Right, I just want to start adding little pieces of drama in at this stage because I know there's stuff going over the top of it. As I said, this is the background. And the background is a background because it's in the background. But now this could be, I mean, I'm tearing up pieces of gel print here. You could actually be doing this with scraps of gel print, not a problem. I've got this piece here, which I found in my scrap box, and I think I'm going to add this in somewhere over here. Or should I do it there? See, that looks like it needs to be more of a top layer. I don't want to put it down then cover it up. Right, I've got this interesting piece here and I don't know that it's gonna see, I'm tearing against the grain here. Now you can print on gift wrap tissue paper, but you have to be a lot more careful because it's not water resistant. You will find that it's going to pretty much degrade if it gets too wet. Let's put that over there. Which is something to be aware of when you're working. I do sometimes use gift wrap tissue paper purely because once you put it down, it becomes nigh on transparent. So, and I like that about that, especially if I want to put some maybe stamped inscription on something, or I want to add a little bit of detail somewhere. I really like that about using gift wrap tissue paper. I'm not sure, that looks wrong there. Let's put that one in the parking lot for a minute. Right, I like this. Yes, ripping in the right direction now. So let's put this corner in. So what else can I tell you about PM Artist Studio? PM Artist Studio is the Texas company I design my stamps and stencils for, and my masks. Gosh, I can't remember how long I've been working with them now. A little while. Probably not a year yet, but definitely a little while. And I just like their whole approach to everything. I like the fact that they're not precious about you can only use their products, no one else's products. I like the fact that they're like, yes, just be creative and share with us your process and what you've done and how you've done it. And I like that because at the end of the day, we are all one huge community, and that's really important to me. So I like to share and work with as many other artists as I can, and of all levels. And I certainly don't class myself as anything more than what I am. I call myself an artist, and purely because I create, and I create with a purpose, and I don't just go in and do stuff. I go in with the feeling of, I really want to create something today. What can I create? And then I'll follow a trend, or I'll create a trend. Or do you see what I mean? It's not just mindless creativity. I'm actually doing stuff. I think I need to come in with some blue. I think potentially some of the paler blue. Well, I think this is the way this tears. Or I could have been wrong with that. It tears this way. Let's tear another piece of that. The other thing I like about using tissue for collage is it doesn't add a huge amount of bulk. Yes, it adds bulk, but it doesn't add a huge amount of bulk because of the nature of the product. It's thin by nature. Okay, that's that bit done. We're closing in on the centre, I feel. We're closing in on the centre. I was trying not to be too blocky about this, but sometimes when it's in your nature to be blocky, you end up being blocky. So, I do like this ultramarine blue colour. Well, I don't know whether you need to say the word blue actually, do you? It's ultramarine. Ultramarine is blue, so I don't know that ultramarine comes in any other colour. As far as I'm concerned, blue is it. So I think that one might go down there. So as you can see, I'm just building up interest. Just getting a background down because it's a starting place for everything else. Now it could be when I cut this up, if I've missed any area with the matte medium, I may have to go in and actually touch it down with a little bit more glue or something, but I think I'm doing okay. Right, one area in there, and I'm happy to not put blue on there. Right, so I've got this, which is interesting, but not interesting enough at the moment. Quite like that. I was going to add some of this, wasn't I? I find this quite interesting. Which way am I tearing? Maybe I need to tear this way, obviously. It does make a huge difference tearing in the right direction. And I like the visual texture of this. So now I'm beginning to use smaller pieces as we go along. This came from, what did this come from? This came from a project I was doing using a gel print. It was like a multi-pull gel I did, and what I found out was at the end I made a mask to actually create it, and the mask was so popular that in the end PM Artist Studio turned it into one of my designs, and it's now on their website for sale. Actually, I might link that in the description box just in case you're interested. I thought that was fabulous. I loved the fact that something that was never meant to be a product ended up as a product, and something of my own, just sticking stuff together, everyone else loved so much that they kept requesting it. So we went, okay, if the people want it, the people shall have it, which is basically what I did. So it's getting a bit sticky now. Right, I do want a third piece of that. I think I want this piece. there. I don't really like the junction of those there. So I'm just going to pop this over the top. Now, with any collage, you're more likely to find the more you collage, the more you'll collage over a bit you collaged underneath. And I do get questions of, why did you put it down if you knew you were going to cover it up? I never know I'm going to cover it up, guys. I never know I'm going to cover it up. Right, I don't think I want any more of that at this moment, or in fact, any more in this. I want to bring in some of these because they're stunning, but first of all I want to address that in the middle. And I'm looking at this piece here just because it's got another colour in it. And I think if I tear this one reasonably well, I should be able to, yeah, I can cover that up. I think another thing I like about collage is no one can ever tell you it's right or it's wrong. Collage is collage. In fact, art is art. Whatever you see, whatever you imagine, whatever you create, is just what you create. I mean, it doesn't have to meet any criteria in my world. I think art is art. If it's pleasing to your eye and it makes you think, or if the creator of it creates it and it's pleasing to their eye as well, then, well, you get where I'm going, don't you guys? I mean, I do care if people like my work, but I also, if they don't like my work, I will thank them for their opinion, and then I'll move on, because that's the way of the world. If everyone who created anything took heed of what everyone else's opinions were, then we probably wouldn't have any art in the world, because thank goodness we're a planet full of mixed personalities and people, and mixed gifts and mixed visions, and to me that's very important. Right, so it's getting there. I'm liking this. Right, remember, we're making an arty background. I don't think I want to add any black at the moment, but I'm hanging on to that because there are a few areas that I think I might. Now, I did love this piece. This was off another multi-layered pull. I'm praying it rips in the right direction. Yes, the tearing gods are with me. Purely because I wanted to use some of these butterflies. Now, I obviously don't know how much of this is going to be shown on each individual piece as I cut it up, because that's the whole thing about cutting up. You just don't know where things are going to fall, because I wasn't going to mark this out first of all. I just wanted to literally create, and then I'll cut it afterwards, and whatever is there is there, whatever isn't there isn't there. Let's tear that a little bit off there. So I'm liking that. Kind of feeling that's too big actually. I wonder if this smaller one will be any better. Best laid plans may have just gone out the window. Now, I'm probably someone out there screaming at me, Ceri, you can cut that faster. I probably could, but I don't want to cut edge, I want a torn edge. And anyone who's thinking, well, if you used a water brush, let me just remind you, this is water resistant. It's not actually going to work because the tissue paper is water resistant. Like that by there. And I think what I might do with this one is I might, close your eyes if you're squeamish, I'm ripping a butterfly in half. I think I might do a half butterfly somewhere and a half butterfly somewhere else. Now I know that not all of these are going to be in the correct orientation. Again, I don't mind. So I think we've ticked the box already of showing Ultramarine and Cheddar. It's on here. I cannot deny it's on here because it is. Right. Just put that down there. So I keep using my card to pick this up with, because if I use my fingers I'm probably going to tear stuff. Now there is a bit of trimming to be done on the back side of this. That's not an issue to me. Right, so I've got that. I think at this point I need to start thinking about upper layers. Now I don't think I want to add on to this any more tissue. I think the collage is pretty much done. I do think, let's put the lid back on this one thinking, I do think I want to come in now with some painty techniques to just raise this up a bit. And by raise it up, I just mean literally to give it a bit more of a focus, to give it a bit more of a something. I'm going to smooth any of that out, not that it needs it. As I said, this tissue is likely to smooth out fractionally when it's done and dry. So I'm thinking, right, what do I need? I think I'd like to bring in a bit of the orange, but in a more formula type way, as in a more exact pattern. I'd like to put some white into this. I'm not sure about metallics. I think I need a little bit of a thinking time. I think I'm going to turn you off for a few minutes, just while I let this rest. And I'm going to wash these out for a start. And then I'll pull in a few products and maybe we'll put some stencil work on here. Maybe we'll put some mark making on here and see where I get to. So bear with me guys, I'll be back in about 2 seconds for you. It'll be about 10 minutes for me. So here I'm back again. It's still really, really sticky, so I'm going to have to be a little bit careful of it. I may at some point have to stop and give it a bit of a blast with a hairdryer, but I think I'm going to be okay. Right, I pulled out a few things for mark making. I've got a foam stamp by PM Artist Studio, which actually is the butterfly that's in there. I've got one of my own rubber stamps, foam stamps, sorry, from PM Artist Studio, one of my designs. I think this is called Peculiar Pebbles. I pulled out, they've got this called a semic writing, which is a smaller version of this, and I quite like that. That adds some really nice drama, and I've got to try and remember scale, because this is probably going to be cut into pieces about that big. Well, actually, let's pull in a postcard. Okay, this is the size of the postcard. So if I was to put big stuff on, I could lose it, whereas I quite like the idea of those elements. And also, I pulled in a piece of this. It's like a non-slip mat, so it'll give me sort of a grid effect. I like that. And I'm going to use a ruler because I've used a ruler before and like the effect of that. So over to my side over here, I've got a ceramic tile. So I'm hoping all of this is going to stay in shot. Let's just move that over a bit to there so you can still see it. And that gives me the ceramic tile, which I'm going to use as a palette. I'm literally going to come in as a palette. Now, I want to throw in here, before I start, I want to put some white in here. So I'm going to come in and I think I'm going to do the grid work with white. Now I'll put a line of the paint down, not sure it's completely in shot, hopefully it is. So basically it's this. I can't put it on the print because it's going to ruin it, and I'm going to smear it out so it's a bit thinner, because otherwise I have lumps, and I'm just getting a weird shape on here, which is good. And I'm going to come in. Now there are two sides to this map, one is sort of raised, one is a grid. It's the grid I want, so I'm going to come in and just add bits. I'm not looking for a huge amount. I just want to start adding a little bit of interest here and there, because remember, this isn't a background. This is actually going to be one whole piece. Right, put that to one side. Now, I've got paint here, so I'm just going to scrape this up into a corner there, just in case I end up requiring it for something else. I should really wet my cloth. Bear with me, I need to put some water on this. It's very hard to wipe paint when you haven't got a wet cloth to do it with. Right, that's cleared that off there. Let's just clear a bit off there. So next I want to come in, and I think I want to come in with this, because I'm thinking these are backgrounds, these are foregrounds, and this is also background. Now let's see what colour do I want. I'm thinking I want to bring in the cheddar colour. Now, I did already say I don't have cheddar, so I'm going to mix these two together and hopefully get something similar to the colour of cheddar. So that was Cadmium Yellow Deep Hue by Winsor & Newton, one of my favourite colours. And this is Orange by Allegra, which is a Stamperia paint, which would be lovely if it came out the pot. I know there's some in there because I've used it. There you go, that'll be enough. So I just find myself a palette knife. Right, let's just mix that up. Yeah, that's sort of a cheddary colour. Cheddar is, it's a weird colour. It's like, to me cheddar is yellow, but when I've seen it on people's monitors, it's more of an orangey yellow. So flying by my seat of my pants here, guys. Not really sure because I've never owned this colour paint. So, right. We must smear that out. Now, the reason I'm not picky that I'm smearing it out in a complete conformed shape is because this way the paint will be picked up in this shape, and then it will make it more interesting. So I'm just going to dab this down just to get some on the back of here. And I'm going to come in and touch it down, lift it off. And this is why I'm using my painty mat. Now I mustn't forget the middle. So I'm tending to forget the middle lately. Right, that's okay. Right, I need to pick this paint up now and move it up to the top. The reason I'm moving it up to the top is because as soon as I turn the camera off, I can actually utilize this on another project. So I'm not about to waste paint, so bear with me for a few seconds while I just do a little bit of a clean up here just to make sure things are all running smoothly. Oh, get it off the palette knife. Let's find a bit of kitchen towel. Sorry, I'm muttering away to myself here, guys. Sometimes I forget you're there. I just get lost in the whole creative process, and I think that's lovely. I mean, my craft, actually I'm going to start calling it my studio, because I've called it for a craft cave for a while now, and it's beginning to be, in my mind, it's more of a studio than a craft cave. So I think it's going to become the studio, because it's not just about craft here. It's about art, it's about creativity, and studio just seems to fit the bill better for me. So I think from this point on, we're going to call it the studio. Right, this needs a quick wash, so bear with me. I'm going to hit pause, give this a quick rinse because I don't want it drying on there, and I'll be back. It also gives this a chance to dry a little bit better as well. Right, so I'm back again, and that stamp is drying. Basically, if I'm using any stamp like this, the moment I stop using it with acrylic paint, I either put it face down onto a damp cloth, like so it keeps the paint moist, or if I've got the opportunity like I do when I'm filming, I just pause the video and I go and give it a wash and come back, because I don't want to ruin my stamps. I mean, just because I don't want to ruin my stamps. Okay, right. I'm liking where this is going. It is drying. There's some interesting stuff on it. I now need to decide whether I want to add these. I do want to add this. I'm uncertain about the wording, Asemic lettering. And the reason is because I don't know where it's going to be. If I was going to put this on, I think I'd rather put this on when the postcard is in the postcard. Right, I've just talked myself out of it. Right, we're not using that. We're going to use the butterfly though. And part of me wants to use the butterfly in white. I think it might stand out. It might be more dramatic. Right, so thankfully we've got a bit of white left up here. So let's just smear that white out and see if I can pick up enough of it to coat the butterfly. I can. Right, I want to put this in places where there isn't any other detail. I like that painty effect of it. Now I'm putting them all in one orientation for no other reason than that's just the way my mind is going at the moment. And I'm ignoring my rule of threes purely because I don't know how many are going to be on what postcard and where. I'm going to do this off the edge of here. I quite like doing things off the edge. Right. I think that's possibly enough. Yes, right. Let's just not stop you again. Let's just give this a bit of a soak. And then I can press this onto it. And as you can see, it will keep it moist for me. So, happy about that. Right, so I've got stuff going on here. I'm trying to visualize this in postcard sizes. This will need something, but then I've still got this to go. Now, in this one, I've got magenta. I haven't yet, oh, put my fingers in the paint, Griffiths. I haven't yet put a metallics on here. There's a little tiny bit on there of metallics, but I'm thinking now is my opportunity to put metallics on. And I think I am going to go with the copper. Or am I going to go with the copper? I'd quite like to do something red. And I'm wondering if I mix a little bit of red with the copper, whether it'll just amp that up a bit. Right, I've got some raspberry red here. Now, the raspberry red is a little bit pinky, but I don't mind that. That's okay. And I think that, hope you can see that. It looks as if you can see it on screen anyway. Let's take that out of there because I don't need that. That totally squeeze this one out. It's amazing. Just when you think you've finished a tube of paint, you can get another squeeze out of it. I do, however, slice off the ends of the tubes and I actually scrape out everything. Right, let's put that to one side. So now that I've got that, yeah, that's sort of a nice. The reason I did that is because it turns the red almost into a metallic. Where's that palette knife gone? So as you can see, it's got a bit of a sheen to it now. Oh, sorry. Right. I think I'm going to pick that up with the edge of my ruler. And literally the edge of my ruler. I'm not looking for perfect lines, but I am looking for lines. And I like using a ruler to do this sort of stuff. It adds a dynamism to something. And I'm aware that this may not be everybody's kettle of fish once this is done, but that's why art is art. Right, I think let's call that done. Let's just pick it up so I can have a look at it. Right, oh, that's got quite a lot on there. Right, so we've got quite a mass of stuff on there. Now I think what I'm going to do now is I need to turn the camera off, let this fully dry overnight, as I said. All of this needs to be utilised up in another way because I don't want to waste that. and then I'll come back tomorrow morning and we will have a look at what we've got here. We'll trim the edges, I'll cut it into postcard sizes, and then I'll decide whether I will go in another time with maybe an element or a focal point or something on each of the postcards. I don't know, don't hold me to that. So I will see you in the morning. 2 seconds for you be, ooh, what's the time now? 5:30 at night. It'll be at least 14 hours time for me. I think it's enough time to let this dry. So thank you guys. I'll see you in a couple of seconds. So good morning everyone. Well, it's 7 o'clock in the morning here. I'm filming really early because as you can see the sun hits my desk and it's going to sweep across here. I'd like to get at least these cut up, take a look at them, and maybe if I've got a chance, do a little bit of extra embellishment on them, not quite sure yet. And I've got a different mat down, so we're not looking at so much paint and mess, to be honest with you. So as you can see, it's fully dried now, overnight now. I've marked out the back roughly, so I know how many I can get out of here. Now the thing is that my standard postcards for myself are normally 5 3/4 inches wide, which is 146 millimeters, by the depth is 4 1/8 inches or 105 millimeters. But I'm going to change that ever so slightly, because if I do 4 1/8, or is it 4 1/60? No, 4 1/8, I can't get 3 out of this. So I'm going to cut this into 3/4 inch, and then there'll be 5 3/4 inches wide. So just to maximize this, if I want to stay with my normal measurements, I would then have a piece which I'll probably turn into ATCs. So what I've done is I've drawn the measurements on the back, purely just because it saves me with a ruler. So I'm going to pull in the old guillotine, my guillotine, that's the one I like. And first thing I'm going to do is take this edge off, because I do know that I'm going to need to lose an edge. Which I don't. Let's just do it at the measurements I've got here. So hopefully I've drawn my lines reasonably straight. I've left it upside down so we can have a little bit of a surprise of what's on the other side, although to be honest with you, these are bases, which means that they're not going to be fully finished. It's an interesting strip. I will keep that. That will go into the gel plate drawer. So, and what did I say? I want to make these at 4 inches, didn't I? So let's get my act together on here. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. Bit of a different process from me. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do next, because obviously time constraints, as in the length of the video. Normally my arty postcards then go into the box that I showed you at the beginning of the video, and then they're worked on over a period of time. So it's not a case of they're done and dusted at this point, because I like to keep nice arty bases around, because they could become the backing on of something else. There could be stencil texture paste on them. They could become a card front. They could become a piece all on their own. It may come up that I actually use them for ATCs and just cut them down further. So, right, let's see what we ended up with anyway. So let's give them a bit better. Now, all of them will get backed with another piece of card just to stiffen them up a bit, and also to tidy them up, because no matter how careful I am, I always get stuff on the back of my postcards, and that's okay with me. So let's have a little bit of a look. Right, I really like that. I'm quite happy with that one. That's very interesting. Pity about the butterfly being cut off. I like that. Oh, that's very similar to that one, isn't it? Oh, I didn't know I was that good with my placement. Oh, that worked out perfectly up there. Come on. Quite like that one. So basically, not planned really, but I've got 4 that have got a butterfly theme on them, and 2 that do not have a butterfly theme on them. And I've got a feeling I'd quite like to do something with these 2, because remember I had this Asemic script that I wanted to put on there, but I didn't because I didn't know where it would be placed. So let's put the butterfly ones to one side. I think I want to pull out a bit of black paint. Well, pull out. It's already out. I'm going to get a bit of a clean surface to work on. And I think I'm just going to put some black on here. See if I can pull this in so you can see what I'm seeing. Right. That light is definitely creeping across, people. Right, so black paint. Oh, sorry about the click. And where's that card gone? So I'm doing as I did before. I'm just smearing the paint down so that it's a thinner layer of paint so that I don't end up with a massive amount of paint on my stamp. Now, do I want to put, I'll just put that one to one side. I quite like the idea of this going down there. It's almost exactly the right size. And I think, is there a right or a wrong way? I feel it's that way. I think if I place it so it goes all the way from the top to the bottom, as long as it's straight, I think it'll be okay. So I'm just loading up my stamp a bit. Do a couple of test stamps to make sure that it's okay. And now I'm giving this a little bit of a press down. I'm not hammering it into the card. I'm just literally pressing it down because that's what I want, is just that little bit of detail. And I think what I want to do on this one is I want it, because my butterfly is that way up, although I'm not sure you can actually see the butterfly. But kind of paint on there, and I put that up by there just to press that down. So this will just add another layer of interest. Now, there are plenty of things I could do with these moving forward, and I'm no intention of fully decorating these. I'm just, where's that damp cloth gone? There you go. Right, remember I'm putting my stamp onto a damp cloth so that the paint stays damp. So let's move that out the way. I'll clean that mirror. So that's just added another element to those. Now, I could put more stuff on these. I could come in and do coloured pencil work. I could do extra texture paste on things like this. So this is just a starting block. When I work with, say I'm working with coloured pencils, so if I was to try drawing coloured pencils on here, there's a good chance that it wouldn't actually pick up the colour very well because these have got matte medium on them now and they're a slightly smoother surface. I've got some Winsor & Newton clear gesso here, and this has actually got a texture to it. So if I wanted to do some pencil work on here, like shading or bringing in like some of this, I could enhance those. I could do more dimension down there. I would paint the whole thing with clear gesso to give it a bit of a tooth, a bit of a texture, so that then the pencil work will catch up. And then when I completely finish the pencil work, I would then probably go over it with like a satin varnish, and what that will do, it will just seal everything in, and it'll make the colours a little more vibrant, because a varnish usually does, although I choose a satin, not a gloss, because I'm not very keen on shiny cards. So I'm not going to be doing that as the rest of the process, because obviously it would be a whole nother video in itself. But as you can see, just out of that, we've got some really interesting arty postcards. Now, I wouldn't mind having one of these sent to me, I can assure you. But things, oh, don't put your fingers in there. I mean, as I said, that could be put on the front of a greetings card and be the greetings card. You could come in and embellish these further. So, hopefully you enjoyed that, guys. It was a little bit of a project. As I said, this month's colour combo was the colours Cheddar and Ultramarine. And as with all of the colour combos, we allow you to have black, white, and a metallic to go with it. So that was it. Let's see, what else do I need to tell you? The colour combos are organised by myself and Paula Keane in the Netherlands. We do it as part of the group of Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artists group, which is a Facebook group. I will put the link to that in the description box. If you click on that link, it will take you to the page. Before you're allowed to join, it's going to ask you 2 questions. And believe me, they're really simple questions. It's there to make sure that you are actually a human being and that your interests lie within what the group's interests are. I love the group. It's full of very talented people, and it's not just paint. There's ceramics people there, there's fabric people there, there's journal people. There's a wide amount of people in that group who are loving and supporting and helpful and will promote you and each other and techniques and share skills, and it's fabulous. And don't forget, the organiser of the whole thing is PM Artist Studio. These are the times they do a YouTube live 3 times a week. Mariah there is beginning to do them on Mondays as well, but they're not scheduled in. It's whenever they've got a project that Mariah wants to work on. The lives are 2 hours long. You can watch them on catch up, and I'd say if you want to get a feel of what it's like, pop over to PM Artist Studios YouTube channel and have a look at some of the previous ones. It'll give you an idea. Patricia is an ex-art teacher. Lots of knowledge, lots of product and skills knowledge. Mariah is more of a graphics illustrator, stroke journal artist. Both of them make a huge team, and the whole thing is that when you're part of the live, you can ask questions which get answered. If they don't know, one of the people in the stream may know. I try to attend as many lives as possible. So if you do go on there, make sure you say hi to me. And if you've got a question for me, Mariah and Patricia don't mind you asking questions of other people. Come ahead and ask me and I'll do it that way. So, right, I just want to put these 2 by because I don't want to put my sign into the top of them. So, I'm going to call it quits. I'm going to say that's enough for today. You may see these in the future. If I actually embellish them or finish them off at some point, I will share photographs or I will put them on my Pinterest board. So look out for that. So I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's Ceri the Crafter. Until next time. Bye-bye now.